All right.
You have
Are you
questions for
ready?
me. Great.
I
Cool.
do. I do. I'm
I'll help.
excited to ask you because we've watched. I'll explain it, but like we've watched this movie, but we haven't really like sat and talked and really talked about like the plot of this movie, like what's going on.
Not really.
Right?
No, I mean, I think back.
More, it's always been kind of like a visual spectacle for us,
Yep.
and cool music, cool, dialogue, but actually understanding what's going on has always kind of been difficult and got a little bit easier. So, yeah.
Whenever you're ready, we're recording.
Okay. Um, I realize I'm diving in already,
I know. I was
but
like, go ahead. We're good. Just start the episode.
welcome to Playing Favorites.
Oh,
I'm Paul.
I wasn't ready. Go start again. I was like,
Welcome to Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin.
Hello, Justin. We're here. We're back. We're going to be talking about Akira
Yeah,
today.
yeah. I'm excited. It's our first. I would say our first anime movie discussion. We've done some anime in the past, but usually you're really averse to it. So I'm excited to talk about some anime.
For some reason. But yeah. No, and this is to us it was like the quintessential anime. It's what it was like for I think for us, for many of us, our initiation into Japanimation, right? Before
Ye-
we even knew what manga was in a lot of ways, we just kind of like were exposed to this movie and some other movies around this time.
Yeah, like I think like you would see this commercial for Kira, well, mixed with a bunch of other animes for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah, but
Like an anime direct like service or something. Do you
I mean,
remember that?
well, it was like the well, I was talked about it. My do the Columbia House thing. So like it was like I remember the commercials for anime. There was like you could get all the movies, and this there was just a hodgepodge of like movies within that Columbia House ad. I don't remember what it was called. It wasn't Columbia House, but it was like something like that. But
You're
then,
right, no,
but so,
it was just like a bunch of, like, advertisements for what they had
yeah,
coming this year.
yeah, like I think Ninja Scroll was in that mix. There was a few other
Fist
ones
of the
in there.
North Star.
Yeah, I had Ninja Scroll because I got that part of my thing. Oh man, that's another one we should watch someday. But I mean, back then, like when Akira was around, like obviously your intro was maybe either probably Dragon Ball Z for the most part or Sailor Moon. But then you'd have Sci-Fi Channel would do like an anime morning. Like
Yep,
they would have
Saturday night,
that was at night. Okay, I wasn't remember. I couldn't
yep,
remember.
because they showed Vampire Hunter D, the sequel, I
Hmm.
think. They showed the original one and they showed the sequel on the Saturday night anime, and yeah, it just it became a thing. Like I remember you knew about it,
Hmm.
our friend Mark knew about
Yeah,
it, like a few other
yeah.
people like were like, "Hey, are you watching Sci-Fi Channel on Saturday? Like, have you seen this?"
We my cousin
And
Josh, who's a friend of the show, he we would watch Galaxy Express 999 on that. So like that was kind of my intro to like
like,
more like expanded.
was that the
But the Galaxy what the Galaxy Express 99 that
yeah, was that like the
the
space
train,
train?
yeah, the space train.
Yes. Okay.
I love that,
All
but
right.
I didn't realize it was a show. They like kind of presented it as like a movie. Like I think they when they Americanized it, they didn't like. I could be wrong. I'm not fact checked. Anyways, we're caught a tangent. Eventually, we got to see Akira through that exposure, like either through a commercial or ad, and I would always remember seeing like whenever they would talk about Akira, like it always get like the monikers from like this is the best movie ever made, even back then, like which is kind of was a big deal. Like I know, like Siskel and Ebert like raved about it back then. Like the
Mhm.
fact that they watched
Yeah.
this kind of a movie was kind of
Right.
for us. Mostly cartoons were just sort of shoved to the side for the most part, but Japan had other ways of handling animation.
And this was a real step forward in considering animation as an art form the way it
Yeah,
is, as just as important as like feature films. Um, and it's yeah, they say it's like not only is this the greatest anime ever created. It's up there with like some of the best one of the best movies ever made. Just
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
style, the direction, like it feels like an actual movie at times, just the way that it's shot, the way
Yes.
that the scenes are framed and cinematic quality to everything. It never feels like you're just watching a cartoon. Like you feel like you're in it with the characters.
Sure.
You understand like the kind of like the physics and rules of this world.
Oh,
And that actually brings me to my first question of
well, before
for
you ask me
you.
that question,
Oh,
I realized we didn't tell anyone who we were. Just so you know, if you
oh,
haven't been here before, if you've never been to this state show before, because you never know, Akira might
right?
bring in some new people here. Because hopefully you enjoy our conversation. But this is playing favorites. We usually what our show is about is we pick a topic and just honestly find out why I like it so much. Lately, we've been doing a lot of movies, so check those out. It's mostly been '90s related. We do some video game streaming. Recently, we did an extra live stream. We raised over about $1,400 for this year, so we're still raising money for that. So you can check our links down here. But
Yep,
lately, we're just trying to find subscribers just to kind of show people this more. So we're really close to 100. So if anything, let's give us a like, a subscribe, and a comment just to kind of
yeah,
help us get to that number. It's a little small goal of ours just to hit that 100 subscriber mark. So even if you only watch half of the video, doesn't hurt to just click that button. So, but
sure.
that's what
We
we usually do. But now we're going to talk about Neo. We're going to talk about Neo
Yeah,
Tokyo.
Tokyo. We're not we and Justin, we're not professionals. This is a hobby of ours.
Oh yeah.
It's a very modest milestone to get to 100 subscribers, but
Hey, we're
we
professionals.
appreciate
We
we
we've we've
appreciate
done this
everybody.
enough, I think, to be called
We
ourselves
we
professionals.
we have a certain level of professionalism for what we were doing. Yes, I
We're
agree.
veterans.
Um,
5 years.
yeah, yes. But we're also realists at the same
Sure,
time.
I gotcha.
But we do appreciate just getting just circulating us with people that you think might be interested.
Yep.
That's really how these things, happen. How we get to 100 is word of mouth. So please help us along. Okay, Akira. This is the year on this is 1988 or 1989. Forget when this came
Oh,
out.
the year of the was came out.
Yeah, when the film was
Because I
released.
remember like the end of the world, World War III was 1998. That's why that's the date that's in my
Mhm,
head. I think it's a 89. Uh,
I think
You,
so.
but I could look it up.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you about the setting of this place, which is one of the reasons why we like this movie is the visual, like the portrayal of Neo Tokyo. The visual style of the animation is cool itself, but also the city itself is just so like alive, and there's always lights flashing. It's always like electric and pulsing, like it's a living thing.
Sorta.
Um,
They showcase that,
yeah.
but there's a lot of parts of the city that's not like that.
Oh, like
It's all
dead
run
parts, like
down and
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
so it. I think there's an underlying layer of that of the movie that doesn't really get showcased. It's kind of hinted at a little bit, with the corrupt politicians and all that stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
there's got to be kind of like a pooling of money into a certain location. It's the nicer part of the area because there's just a lot of technology in that when you look at it from like a distance, it's kind of a neat shot, right? All the different
Mhm.
technology, lights, kind of Blade Runner esque type vibe, right?
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, maybe that movie inspired this movie. Who knows? But I'm kind of
Mhm.
not sure because I'm not sure when the manga came out, so I don't really know what came
This is true.
first.
This is based on a very long manga
Yeah,
and like an ongoing series, and they really had to jump through a lot of hoops to get this to a 2-hour movie runtime.
yeah.
So much was consolidated, so much was cut. It'd be fascinating to read the manga and actually learn the whole story, but
Mm.
it's amazing that we're able to glean as much of the story as we are from just like how much information they tried to pack into this
Well,
movie.
there's so much. Was I think the phrase, well, the set dressing, right? I mean, there's so
Mhm,
much. There's so much of it, like throughout the movie. Really, I mean, like you get so many just like shots of just. Uh, I think a lot of times, like the best things in this film, and I know you have like tons of questions for me, but it's really just
good.
just the feel of being in the place that you are. Like, I mean, like just like I feel a lot of the different elements and just like when they go into like later on the chamber to see Akira, like just like the cold
Mhm.
of like them putting jackets on and like just
Oh,
there's
I mean,
so many little details that they do, and I'm just that's an example, but like throughout the film, it feels so I feel like it, I feel more connected to this world, like understanding like how it would be in that space compared to even some live action films, right? Like
oh,
I
yeah.
yeah, like it just
Oh,
feels so lived
absolutely.
in and like oh, it feels cramped when they're in certain spots because they put enough like even for modern day animation, like the amount of people that they cram into a spot where like I remember even earlier in the movie, like they show the all of them like kind of like being like kind of arrested amongst the
Mhm.
then they have that
Oh,
shot with the
yes.
guy with the rebellion.
Everything's
Like
animated.
there's just a
Yes.
ton of people in that little hallway where they easily could have just done like four or five people and you still would have gotten the same idea, but
Sure.
it wouldn't have as much weight behind it because they really want to add like this is a very condensed city because it seems like based on what your question is the setting is that we had a World War III and there's a lot of people get I think pushed into this city, at least
Mhm.
that's my interpretation. Again, that could be explained in
And
the
this
manga
is
more.
Neo Tokyo, so it implies something happened to the old Tokyo,
Yeah,
which was Akira, right? So
sure.
you have a new city basically, like, rebuilding from the ashes.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's
But you're
but
you're 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 really, like, onto something talking about the almost like the dead parts of the city, the scarier parts of it, and this, you know, you clearly have a political, like, upper class because you do get exposed to the very briefly, the planning committee, I think is
hmm
what they're called,
yep.
and it's like a group of, like, 12 people all sitting around this table, and the general is one of them, and you do get some of their back and forth and how very political it is, like, it almost reminded me of, like, Doctor Strangelove because they're just, like, arguing and then they're hitting and choking each other at one point, and
Yeah.
these are supposed to be, like, the highest political leaders,
And
and they're
that's the
literally grabbing onto each other and
and that's
choking them,
the
but then
a-
turn on a dime.
the animated or anime vibe that you can get. Like you
Mhm.
wouldn't do that in a live action movie. Like you wouldn't have them like doing the
Well,
shaking and like all like being the
that's what makes it like Doctor Strangelove because there is that, like, slapstick kinda humor in that movie
yep.
with this, like, very serious thing, so they're clearly poking fun at these guys, at how unserious these serious people really are,
Hmm.
and the scene that you were talking about. So yeah, there's all that like really in these short spans of time, they like every scene serves like two or three purposes all at once. It's like background information and how the plot's moving forward. Background and how the plot's moving forward.
Hmm.
Always. You're
Yeah.
like getting bits of lore as you're making progress. It's a very good game. It would work very well as like a text-based game, if you were to
Sure.
play Akira. It would take forever to beat it.
Yeah, that'd be
But
kind of interesting. Just I imagine that like Akira as a video game with biker gangs and
Mhm.
all that stuff. Like that'd be kind of neat.
Oh,
But
so cool. But the scene you were talking about earlier, about, like, the set dressing and, like, the things that they don't have to do, but do that give the movie more weight. Like, that whole scene when they go down to the frozen core with Akira, like you were saying, that whole thing, it just takes so long, and you see the whole process. You see them putting on the heavy jackets.
hmm.
You see them, like, hitting the buttons. You see, like, the steam escaping, and then you watch this massive, elevator taking them down.
We kind of made fun
And
of
that
it
gives
too.
it
It's like
gravity, though.
we did make fun of it a little bit more watching it because it's like they're all just standing around like setting it like turning it on. Then General's just like it's like okay, open the door. Like that's why we
Yeah.
came here. Like what?
You noticed that? You were like, "Dude, are they waiting for him to say so?"
And then like they seem surprised. Like oh, we're actually to do it.
"Oh,
Like it's like
I didn't think we were gonna go this
I thought
far."
we were just
You
checking the
2 would just
door.
ride
Like
the elevator up and down. It's just really fun to ride that enormous elevator.
with no railings. Like but like back to the set dressing, since that's your question, like just the shot of the city, like when you first like enter Neo Tokyo, like they like there obviously you got the shot where it's like all the flashing lights, and then it just zooms in to like every little detail. Like the one thing that gets me the most in the set dressing is like the hologram
Mhm.
ads. but then it's like
Yes.
the laughing fat man. That's the one that
Yep.
really
I
sticks with the
remember that
most.
one. It's like turning. Yep.
But
Because I
with the
believe
music, it fits really good too. Like that's the thing that adds
yep.
to it.
And what's crazy is that whole opening sequence is one of the gray children, one of the 3 gray children, who have the powers.
Yeah, the kid,
It's
the
it's
experiment
him yeah,
test subject.
one of the kids, and he's being dragged by one of those rebels,
Hmm.
and they're, like, trying to get him to escape, trying to escape with him. But that whole sequence, you start out with, like, oh, the beautiful city, and then it gets match cut to that, and you see a lot of, like, the commercials, and the one that always sticks out for me is the commercial of, like, the dogs, like, coming up for doggy treats, and then
Hmm.
it cuts right to the snarling police dogs that are chasing
Oh yeah,
the dude in the kit, and it's like, oh, and that's when he shoots both of the dogs, and in the process, you're seeing the reaction of the people around, including a kid in the car next to it. It's like the attention to detail. You don't see that in live action movies
yeah. Because
sometimes.
like in any other movie, even like those cars that he's jumping around would be
Mhm.
just like windows. So you wouldn't see the
Windows,
people. Yeah,
gla
you.
like, yeah, like, tinted or matted, so you wouldn't be able to see inside much.
Yeah, like I got a lot more like, watching this with you because I mean I don't even know if we've watched this film. Maybe we did once back when
Maybe
I
way back.
first had it because that's the big conversation we're going to have today. Is that we finally got to watch this was the modern day dub. So
Yep.
we grew up with the whole '80s dub, which is horrendous as far as like
Oof.
adaptation. But like to
Yeah,
us, it
understanding,
was
basic understanding.
yeah. Like to us though, it was just the movie. Like it was quotable, it was cheesy, but like you still loved it because the animation really and the music was still there. So it
Yep.
really all of that pulled its weight, and I think that gave enough information for you to really
Sure.
see how special this was. But the
We got
dub
to
was horrible as far as like
it is. It is.
translation what's going on.
We could say that it's horrible now, and there's still part of me after watching the new one that's a little nostalgic for that, just because of how
Yeah.
silly and funny it was, and really the kinds of things that they translated for an American audience.
Hmm.
It's like in one way it was kind of insulting. It was like that's how they think of us.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's how they expect us to like. It's a lot
Well,
more like yelling and swearing.
but that's not Japan that's doing the translation. That's like the company that gets it from Japan, and then they're like, "Well, this is what
We
Americans
got to
want."
jazz it up American
Yeah,
style.
like obviously we were quoting it watching this movie because he doesn't say it. Is that one line later on? I know we're jumping around the film, but it's
Just when
whatever.
my
Like,
turtle was reaching the green line.
but no, it's that one phrase, "bitchin." Like like we
Oh,
like
yeah.
I ever since you started saying that, I'm like, oh my god, he does say that. Oh, he does say that, and it's like they don't have it. But like
It's
the
just gone from the real movie, but they added a line where he
but
just
like
goes he's like, "What am I, going crazy?"
yeah, like it made
Okay.
more sense. But like if you think about it, back when we watched the dub, it's like I just kind of like took that as like, okay, that's just the line. He's
That's
crazy.
just
He's
how
just
Tetsuo is. Yeah, he's really gone
Tetsuo.
crazy.
Tetsuo is just going nuts. Like,
Thank
but no,
you.
his crazy has more, I guess. Like uh, it's less crazy than it is. Like it's like a
No, it makes more sense.
yeah.
Why he does what he does makes more sense. That's what we learned. So if we're gonna talk about the plot of the film, like Tetsuo and Kaneda's relationship,
You
understanding
gotta say
that
it
is
right.
important to
You gotta
understand.
say it right. Can't be. It's not
Canada,
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 not Canada.
Canada. Oh, that's a tough one for me to break. But their relationship is really like what the movie's about. Like understanding that, then you can understand. Like then it helps to understand like the actual crazy crap that's happening at the end. But yeah, like Tetsuo and Canada are Canada. I'm just gonna call them Canada. Tetsuo and the Great White North are both orphans
Yep.
in this, and they both end up at the same orphanage, and Tetsuo gets picked on, and Canada is the first one that like sticks up for him a little bit, and like they become friends. But it is this power dynamic of always feeling like he's smaller than Canada, and Tetsuo is always like the one in need of saving or need of help, and that's how the movie starts. Is
Yeah.
when they're chasing the
The,
clowns,
the,
Tetsuo falls off his bike, and they jeer at him, and he's come on, and He's
Yeah,
trying so hard to
he's
prove
not he's always making mistakes, and of course, as guy friends tend to do, you not meaning anything probably bad about it, but like they poke fun at the guy that struggles a
yeah,
little bit because they think
not
that the
knowing, yeah,
relationship is strong enough that it's okay. Where deep down, like he's dealing with his inadequate what's the word I'm trying to say, inadequacies. I can't say it.
adequacies,
Yeah,
inadequacies, yeah.
I'm trying to use a good word, but I
But I
can't
mean,
say
like,
it.
look, all of, the rest of the gang, the motorcycle gang, when they're around each other, they just kinda, like, talk like normal. Tetsuo is the only one that's, like, emotionally, like,
Yeah,
"I want revenge. I will not be in his shadow anymore." Like, that is the thing that's underlying them, so it is surprising for Kaneda to
you, you're
to see
you're
it.
blending it. It's Canada.
Kaneda.
Uh, I
I
remember
re I well, that last
I've
one,
done Japanese in
Justin.
college. It's ka na da,
Canada,
not
okay.
yeah,
But that last
Canada.
one, I will tell you truthfully, I just said Canada on purpose. That's why I was like, "Screw this." Uh, Canada. Canada is giving, it's why he's so surprised when Tetsuo, like, says, like, "I wish you would just leave me alone," when
Hmm.
he's after he
Yeah,
steals the bike and all that. If you came, by the way, to for us to explain the plot of Akira to you, it's like we're still explaining it, we're still, like,
I mean,
analyzing it and actually talking about it
I'm
with
a
this
step up
new layer
because
of information we have.
the one thing I've seen this movie in the Japanese version, so like the
Mm,
subtitles really do help.
I
I
imagine,
think I
yeah,
mean the dub did a really good job. This newer version, but I remember when I watched the Japanese version because all we had seen was the original dub. When I watched that Japanese version in theaters, mind you, which was an amazing experience. Highly recommend it. I learned so much more about this movie just by watching the subtitles. So
yeah,
like the movie itself has everything it needs as far as like the original creation of the film, as far as like the Japanese dialogue. It it gives you so much freaking information. I'm actually relatively impressed. Yes, there's a lot
yeah,
of science mumbo jumbo, but it's you have like the commander or or it was the
the
colonel, the
Jap
colonel.
the Colonel, you're right.
Like his role helps you understand it because
Mhm,
like he asked the doctor all these questions that we would kind of ask that needs to be answered to understand the plot of the movie. And like but he also asked them in such a well-written way that it's not like I'm a dumb colonel. It's like, no, I understand the backstory of Akira. I just don't understand the science of it. So he
yeah,
asks it understanding what could happen and what has happened in the past. But then it
yeah,
helps by asking those questions delivers enough information for the audience. It's still by no means like the easiest thing to follow, but
sure,
it's so much
yeah.
better to go to follow knowing the better dialogue versus the original dub, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. The Colonel is like audience surrogate, right? Like he asks the questions we want answers to. So like when he's talking even to the planning committee or to the scientist at the beginning there, who I want to talk about next, that scientist in particular,
Hmm.
the one that's like tracking Tetsuo and
With the
uh
endless amounts of
the
paper.
yeah. They got to be reusing it, man. It's got to be going in a loop or something. It's like the printouts on
Like
this,
I don't
all
see
those
a single tree. I
Scantron
haven't seen a
printouts.
single tree in this movie. So where are they getting all this paper from?
I'm telling you, it was a lot. I mean, they were wading through it. It's like up to their knees at one point. Anyway, the colonel like is asking. He's like, I know, yeah. He's not an idiot. But he's asking. It's like, tell me it in a straightforward way, because he's a military guy. There is a bit of that, like, okay, there's the science behind it and the theory, but tell me, like, is this thing dangerous or not? And if it does become dangerous, will you pull the plug? And that really is the onset of trouble here. You can say, like, yes, we could have stopped trouble with Tetsuo at many stages in the game. But once the scientist allowed Tetsuo to go beyond like a power that they could control,
Hmm.
then that was ultimately the end, like the beginning of the end
Yeah.
for all of them.
I think it also just happened. It happened faster than they expected, so they didn't have a because these big the scientist is big about getting more data. right? Like
Yeah.
he's big on that.
Curiosity.
Yep, and
Curiosity kills the
because
cat
there's a
sometimes.
balance. Like if we could learn to harness this power or control this power or whatever, it's that risk reward type of limbo that they're in. But the
Yep.
second you let it slide, they lo- they thought they could control it, but they just didn't learn from their
But
mistakes.
you're absolutely right. This is, like, also, like, a critique of science without guardrails,
Yep.
like, probing further and further and further, and really trying to, like, unlock the secrets because, whether it has something to do with, like, spatial manifestation or traveling through dimensions, whatever, like, yeah, some kind of universal secrets or wisdom is to be found, some knowledge is to be found. But yeah, it reminds me, if I was to give you a modern example of the crack in Odin's lair in the God of War games,
Mm,
there, the rift, if you will.
hmm.
It's like there it is, but if you go too deep, if you try to, anyways. My other, I have another question for you.
I have one thing I wanted to add based on a previous conversation about
Sure.
Tetsuo. Like it's more of
It,
just
it's a
a
movie about them too, so
oh,
go for it.
well, you were saying how like you have that relationship between Tetsu and Kaneda.
Okay, all right, just checking.
I have a hard time too. But like the one thing I want to know, I want this origin story because obviously you got the big brother element because he helped him when he was in the orphanage. You learn that later, like he's the one that protects him, and because he gets beat up,
Yeah.
he's bullied. But my thing is, where did Kaneda get this bike from? Like, where did he get this freaking? I would be jealous of this dude too. Like, why does he have such an awesome bike? Like, where did
I
he?
think it's implied that I think he stole it
Did he?
because I
I
think
didn't
they
get that.
said, I think he says, like, when someone's,
Yeah,
oh,
I just
when the other guy, the shorter guy in the gang says to Kaneda, he's like, "Yeah, he was asking about your bike." And he goes, "My bike." At least in the original dub, I remember him
well,
going,
yeah, there was.
"But tell him he can steal his own."
Oh
And
well,
so I always just wonder, I'm like, "Did he steal it?" Because it looks like a freaking, like,
yeah, like
like, futuristic, state of the art bike.
yeah,
Everyone else is using a
I
motorcycle,
know. There
and
like
he's,
no
like,
other
on, like,
bikes.
some
I don't
government
think
secret
no one
hover
other
bike.
none of the other technology or vehicles in the movie look like his bike. Like he's definitely
Yeah,
the like he's not even I wouldn't even consider Kaneda to be the star of the movie, even though he's like on the poster and like what have you. It's really Tetsuo, and
that's cool.
you could even argue the Colonel to a degree. Like I mean, like
He really is like us in a lot of ways as we're watching the movie, we're reacting with
like
him.
when
But this
we made a
movie is,
comment about Kaneda a little bit too, where like he was like the Rocketeer, where he's just like bumbling through the movie, like just doing
oh,
random
yeah,
things.
falling and going, "Wow!" Yes.
He loves his ramps. He loves running down ramps.
Oh my gosh. But you were saying about, Canada and his, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyways, I wanted to ask you, oh, about Tetsuo himself. The greatest irony is that this movie is Tetsuo's story, really. Like,
Hmm.
it's about Tetsuo and then Akira, kind of in a way, and the children. But the irony is Kaneda's all over the cover art. It's his bike.
Yeah.
It's all about him. So, like,
Hmm.
even in the media and the cover and just, like, everything, it's about Kaneda.
Hmm.
But in reality, it's still Tetsuo's movie. Even within the movie, Tetsuo is fighting to be recognized as the star
Sure.
of the movie.
Little meta behind that. I'm curious
And
though, like about the manga, like how much more you get of Tetsuo. Like
yeah,
I don't know how you would change the film to give him more of a spotlight because like
he goes,
you can't market
yeah,
him as like the main character. Like it is, kind of in a way because like he's the cooler looking one. He's the one that, but he really, whatever.
he do?
Mhm.
What does he do in the movie? He runs around a lot. He gets, like, into
Yeah,
things with other people, but, like, it's just place setting, I feel like, just to get him reunited with Tetsuo again after, like, 2 moments. After Tetsuo first gets his power, he sees they, like, run into each other, they have their first, like, clash, right? And then in the final, like, confrontation, like, and he's even more powerful, or does it take or he doesn't see him until the very end?
No, well, they run into him after he escapes the hospital because he like
Oh, that's right, he's still in the
and
hospital
he
garb.
that's when he
That's
like
right, yeah.
finds the biker gangs and he like goes nuts because his
They
Powerade was
yeah,
getting like attacked and
beat
whatnot.
up and
But he didn't really know how to
he
use
stole
his
the bike.
yeah
That's right.
he didn't really know how to use the power. No, he didn't steal the bike then. That's so I'm remembering
Yeah.
like so he
No,
escapes.
he stole the bike, and then he couldn't ride it, and the clowns caught up to him,
Oh,
and the
that's
clowns
that's
beat
you're
them up.
right. Yep, yep. And then the agents came and took him away again.
Yep,
But like I think what happens is that he's in the hospital again, and then Canada tries to go save him. Like he wants to like help him.
that's
Um,
right, yeah, he was
and
trying to get him out.
they meet they see each other in the
In the
kids room.
yep, the kids' play area, yep,
Yeah.
yep,
But then he just like decides he like starts hearing information about the Akira, which is at the stadium, and that's what gets him to go to stadium, and then
he
then
leaves.
that's kind of the flow of how that happens.
Yeah, so that's the first time that time when they're fighting in the or when he's defending himself, I guess, or fighting the 3 kids in the playroom, um, when Kaneda sees him for the first time or sees him again and is, like, trying to bust him out,
Yeah, 'cause that's when
and
he really
he's
gets
just,
his
like, looking at him,
powers.
he's like, "I don't need your help. It looks like you may need my help now."
Yeah. Yep.
And that's when you get that. You do have Tetsuo going crazy kinda quick, going from, "I'm pissed off and I'm, harnessing this power." It does progress pretty fast. I would be interested to see how that manga, like, does break that down. But I wanna ask you about, like, Tetsuo at the end of this movie. Like, what actually happened at the end? Because the 3 experimented upon children do bring back Akira, right? Tetsuo is, like, rapidly expanding. He can't control his power
I
anymore.
don't know if it's to my understanding wasn't to bring back Akira, but to not Akira the person, but to bring back the power of Akira by finding other people that had similar like qualities to what he was. So like, he was like the best one of them all, like in a sense, as far as all the kids
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the thing or whatever. But obviously, his power became too much, and he couldn't control it, and that's why it blows up. Just like Tetsuo, in a sense, he follows the same path. I think the kids decide to release Akira's like structure and molecular thing because there's so much power within his DNA. They talk about how like the smallest, the beginning of life form
yep,
is like the deep down cells, amoebas, and da 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 da. So my understanding, at least my that's where it gets kind of vague at the end when everything kind of just explodes and turns to white, and you just hear vague cryptic comments from the children, which we didn't
yep.
add. As far as a dub, they actually sound like kids and not creepy old people.
Oh,
So
thank God. One of them, he sounded like the one who wears, like, the suit and has to fly around
yeah,
in his little chair. He sounded like
yeah.
this. He
I
was
said he
like,
sounded like Louis
I don't know,
Anderson.
like
That's what
some
I.
kind of, like, tattoo from yeah. So
But,
so bizarre to have this, like, old man voice in this child.
um,
But the idea was that the whole process, like, aged them terribly, like, the experiments did on them.
yes.
But they were still children technically. Uh, I do wanted to okay, so I was looking at some of, like, the synopsis and, like, kind of explanation of the ending and, like, what's actually like, what's going on. And so the way that it's described is that Akira yeah, like, the power of Akira is brought back, and then it basically takes Tetsuo to another dimension so that all of that material that, like, all that, power that he has creates, like, another big bang in a sense and creates, like, its own
Yeah.
universe.
Yes.
So, like, it's like the power of creation, which is what the scientists said he was, like, looking for, right? That's what they were like, the power of the universe itself, you
Mm.
know? So,
Okay. That
that's the
that part I
power. So,
wasn't.
like, it's like the
I didn't get that. I
yeah,
guess either.
I
Um.
get it a little bit. It's like they called Akira, as I remember seeing it, it's like they call Akira, and what that does, they tell, like, like, the colonel and Kay to, like, "Go in and run and hide in the bridge, like, under the bridge, everybody get away,"
Yep.
and then, what does it do? It's like it just sucks in everything around it and just transported it someplace else.
So that makes more sense because I wasn't sure how that, because you got kind of like getting, he gets like the point of view of the teleportation, but he doesn't get
Yeah.
teleported, I guess, because the
Or he
young
gets
kid
sent
say
back
no, the
somehow,
young
like,
the kid goes in and saves him. So they all the kids go in. They weren't going to
oh,
go
that's
in.
right, and then the kids do technically die then with them, or
Yeah.
they
So
go with Tetsuo.
that's why he gets part of
Mhm,
the teleportation, whatever you want to call it. I guess I they kind of vaguely say like they're going away, they're gone, like they're, like they don't
mhm.
really say exactly where or where what. Maybe the manga explains that more. I'm not sure, but it did seem to make more sense. I guess my understanding interpretation of the ending was that they, maybe I'm not remembering it. I was always thinking that him being near Akira was progressing him and making him do this thing faster. Like that was always my take of
Like,
it.
achieve his perfect form.
Yeah, like, well, obviously, whatever the form this power is trying to manifest, because obviously it gets so extreme that he just becomes this blob of just things
Or,
and
like, to
whatever.
teach him, like, to control it, to, like, master the power, to become one with it or something, like, figure it out.
Um,
Is that,
I,
like, what Akira's in this, it says that it's teleportation, that
oh,
the city, like Neo Tokyo, was teleported to another dimension by Akira in 1988. The World War III event was actually the scientists, like, Akira's power becoming uncontrollable, and what did it do? It, like, sucked everything into it and teleported
wow,
all of
really?
Tokyo someplace else.
Huh?
And uh so we're and then again in 2019, which is when this movie takes place.
Huh?
So one of
So is
Akira's
this
greatest powers
world of
is to
Akira
create.
in another dimension? The one we're watching?
Technically speaking, yes, because his power is to create energy fields and teleport anything inside of it. That's what this,
Huh?
I'm looking at this like
Well, that completely changed, but that's still
Akira.
cool. Like it doesn't really
It
change
is.
like my perspective
No,
of what's happening.
it doesn't because the story itself is still cool. What ultimately happens to Tetsuo is not as important as, like, him coming to terms with his relationship with Kaneda and that kind of confrontation,
Yeah,
and them both kind of recognizing how they've grown. It really is a story about family, Justin.
yeah.
It's a movie about
The
family.
Fast and Furious movie, sure.
Or what's it? The Last Jedi. That's what Carrie Fisher said. It's a
um,
movie about family.
like the few other elements though we didn't touch on is like the element of Kay, about how she supposedly potentially has she might have the power to control this
Yeah,
too. Like that's
yeah,
another wrinkle of this storyline where she's not like a main focus. Like she's important to the story because she knows two bills. There's two of them.
yep.
Uh,
Not Bill and other Bill.
go watch the movie. You'll probably understand what we're saying. It's two
Anyway,
people that look exactly the same, but we don't know who's
yeah.
who. Like,
I think it was Bill and, like, Jill. Like, they were Bill and Will.
it's just she says. I mean, we used to make fun of like the Canada or Canada, like Kaneda, Tetsuo, like
Yep.
all like that whole dub.
No,
To be honest, like in this dub, she just says Bill like every like when they
Bill,
first Bill,
Bill,
Bill.
Bill.
But I like we were like kind of like back and forth on like did she like get eyeshadow when the girl started like talking through her? Like it just seemed like she
That's
changed and
right.
she got
The
makeup
makeup, the
and
little slight blue makeup. I don't know if it was similar to the girls, like, makeup, because her eyes are like that too, and I wondered, like, now it, like, sets it up, like, you'd think, like, Tetsuo is the last person to be touched by the power, but not so, now it's her. So the power is still exists in the world.
but
So
she
instead
didn't
of
have she yeah, but like maybe maybe that's like a telling to her like her demeanor. She
hmm,
evolved like Tetsuo just couldn't handle it emotionally, maybe like because of his emotions and who he is. Like, I was curious, when did Tetsuo get this? Did he always have it, or was it because he crashed into the kid? Like, that's the thing
I
that
think it's 'cause he crashed into the kid. Oh, wait, no, 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 I see what you're asking. he has some little bit of latent power, but they say like that just about everybody does,
Mm,
have
true.
some manner of it. And maybe his was a little bit more, perhaps, but his collision with the kid is what is his impact with the power, like actually
Kind of
coming
like
into contact with the power itself,
a
like jump started his own, probably
uh,
to like keep him alive too, I bet.
you
Um,
know,
yeah, that's how I kind of always interpreted it as him coming into contact with the kid. But it makes more sense that like everybody has this kind of it's like a not an extrasensory projection, but like I guess telekinesis,
yeah, yeah. It's like the shadow talks
telepathy,
about that. You know, it's
telekinesis.
that front
Oh,
of your brain. You know, it's you gotta
nice
you
pull.
gotta stab it with a mirror.
That knife, right? With the nasty face on it.
No, well, in the shadow, he uses like a shard of like mirror, and like
Oh,
he.
yep, that's right.
Uh, sorry, I had to
Give him
reference
a
that.
lobotomy, quick lobotomy. Uh, this movie is great. Oh, I
Hmm.
love everything about this movie. I love the culture of the punks and the clowns, and that they go to high school. They're like in the worst like remedial high school,
It's such a
and
horrible
the
looking
teachers
school. Like, why would you want to go there? Like, I mean, I would be a
the
punk.
teachers regularly just like knock him all along the side of the head.
Like, there's a shot later on, like, and they're leaving the teacher, like he's just like blood's coming out of his mouth. Like, I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of little like those like cheesy anime elements that like sort of like glorify or embellish like what they're actually. Yeah, he's like a bloody lip, right? But like they're embellishing it
Yeah,
by blood just spewing out of his face. Like,
but giant like baseball, like under the eye, purple. Uh, yeah, it's good. It's good. The visuals are great. I love their drug culture too, that it's capsules. They're just taking these pills. And when Tetsuo like has the bag of them and he's just like chowing down on them. Like, what do they do again? Are they meant to relax? Or are they uppers or downers? I guess I want to know.
uh, probably downers. I don't know. What are there any? Because there's one scene that I want to talk about, but I don't know if there's any other scenes that you haven't touched on that you just wanted to touch on, or do you
No,
have any
I'm
other
curious to
questions?
hear what you got to say.
But
No,
like the
go
one
for it.
scene that I think I have always stick with me, and we were raving about it, was when he starts going crazy, and like you have like the music of the stuffed animals, and like the
Oh
do,
yes,
like it's
yes.
like I remember loving that was such as a kid. I mean, I watched this middle school, high school, something like that. I don't
Dum,
probably
dum,
probably early high
ba-dum,
school, but
dum,
like that,
dum,
like, and
ba-dum,
then how it
dum,
gets like
ba-dum.
deeper with the car
Grr,
coming into
grr,
the room and
grr.
stuff.
Yep.
Like it's such a odd, weird, and it's like you don't really, they don't. It's not like a quick thing either. Like that whole thing sticks around, like them
Yep.
fighting as like stuffed animals, but it makes sense because they're kids, right? So like they're kind of using their own like. I mean, I'm not sure how old they are as kids. Are they like are they just children that have always been children and then are now aged,
Well,
right?
you gotta say, okay, if the Akira event took place in '98
And
and
this
then
is
in
19.
2019, so, they're probably, like, 30 years old.
They just stayed
But, yeah, I
kids.
mean, like, they live very kids' lives, and, like, their imagination is I don't know, are they trying to kill Tetsuo in that scene? What are they
Um,
trying to do?
I
Because
think
I
they were.
love that scene too, and, like, he's, like feels like he's going crazy and, you know, starting to feel the pain.
No, I think they explain it. I think there's a reason because
They
there's a
said, like,
conversation
big
with
people
her.
couldn't use the power. Yes.
They're trying to like show like they're trying to almost like teach him to not use the power the wrong way. And I don't know if there's a way there's a meaning behind him going crazy, or maybe it's to make him think like, "Okay, let's make him go even more crazy just so he like stops you." Like I don't know what the logic. I mean, they're kids, so I don't think I forget they
You know,
explain it.
at a certain point, it does feel like they are goading him on to for, like, on purpose. Like, at one point, like, later in the film, it does seem like they're like, "He's one of us now, and we have to" I don't know.
But they
there's
don't
that.
want him
I
to.
think in that point though, that scene you're talking about, I think they are trying to kill him because
Yeah,
they say like big people like you should not be using the power.
I think there's
Like they
they
think
were a
they're
little
trying to.
scared of him. They were scared of him.
Yeah.
And because they didn't want him to find Akira, because you remember her reaction to when he gets in her brain, and she's
Mhm.
like, oh, the stadium's like, she's like, no, don't do that, don't go there. Like, there's something about these kids that I think I need to watch it again, either in the Japanese version or something. Like, I don't quite get their motivation sometimes, like in the middle of the movie. It's not like it makes sense to a degree because it like kind of pans out the right way. But in the middle, I don't know if they're being direct. Maybe they're directed to stop him.
Huh.
I don't know who's
I
telling
think
them to do
so.
what.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that they ultimately like their goal is they understand like they need to bring back Akira to do his like teleportation thing. Like they need to get Tetsuo out of here or he'll just keep consuming.
Well, that was their revelation later, yeah. But like
Yeah.
before they realized that he was too far gone, I don't know.
It's like he was turning into a black hole, really. Like he just started sucking things in. And then at one point it was like grabbing things quickly, like almost like light
Yeah.
wasn't gonna be
Yep.
escaping.
Yep.
So no, it's such a visually amazing movie. The story, the layers of storytelling going on. You have like fun, silly, stupid anime stuff, but that's layered on top of like political intrigue as well as like kind of like science going haywire and then the like real sci-fi
No.
uh
I love how
you know
they animate the
crazy
mole.
man going
The
going
mole
hog wild.
the mole looks like a mole, like he's a human mole. Like for some reason, the politician, he looks like a weird
Oh,
mole.
yes.
Like
He also
his
happens to be
his death scene,
mole-like.
by the way, man, it always gets me. Like him just grabbing his chest and like the
Yep.
pills flying out, and then Bill just watching the rebellion
That
that he's trying to stoke up happen, because there's a whole background rebellion thing, because that's where Kay and Bill's from, and like
yep.
there's a whole like religious aspect. There's so many little small side story details. They're almost like background stuff. Like they're not even like main focuses. Like you have a brief moment where he's like Tetsuo's kind of bringing a religious army with him in to a
Yeah, they're
degree,
folling him.
but
Yeah, they
then he
think
doesn't
he's
seem to care
Akira.
about them because they all die.
Yeah, at first he was like, "Hey, wait a minute, those were my followers." But then he didn't really care because he just, like, upended the bridge and everybody on the bridge
Hmm.
died,
Yeah,
including the people that were
but
following him thinking
such
he was the second coming of Akira.
such classic, iconic shots in this that have been duplicated millions of times over.
I
You
think
know,
that's what people need to see this movie for, is to see just how many tropes and, you know, callbacks to this movie there are and how many emulators and copycats. 'Cause this movie did it all to begin with, and a lot of things owe their credit to this movie even existing. But anyways, that's our own take on this. So Justin, would you recommend this movie?
okay, absolutely. I mean,
I there's
sure.
not anybody I
If you
wouldn't recommend
I don't
it
if
to
you
to
came to
watch.
us to get a recommendation about this movie, like
Yeah, go watch it. What are you
yeah,
waiting for?
like
I watched this on a VHS, um, copy that somebody copied from another VHS. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they had the 2
yeah. See,
VHSs.
the head
I
pilot
got the
probably
copy. It
was it
was
shaky
a
a little
piece of
bit?
it was okay. No, no, it was pretty terrible, very blurry, but a big piece of masking tape on it with just in black Sharpie,
Well, that's what
Akira.
you know, because you watched it on Crunchyroll for this, because I was surprised it actually was on Crunchyroll,
Oh,
and
the
you really got so
quality.
much more detail out of it. You're like, oh, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know that happened. Like,
There were literally things I didn't see in the frames before, like, little
yeah, like
elements
I
was
mean, I
like,
remember some of it. Like I
"Oh,
remember
cool."
like some of the details. I'm like, oh, like the one part where like Kay picks up the gun and the arm's still hanging on the gun. Like
Yes,
like things like
yes.
just random things. Like there's just so many little subtle things. The more you watch it, like they just added that extra detail of animation, and it makes you just want to keep talking about the movie and watch it again. And it doesn't really make or break the film, but just it makes it's not added for no reason either.
No, no.
You know,
And it also makes you wonder, why if we have such amazing technology now, why can't movies look this beautiful?
they don't want to spend the money on it.
Mm,
All about
quality
budget.
matters. Quality matters. All right, Justin, this has been a blast. I love talking
Yeah.
about this movie. So glad to see it and actually understand it a little bit better.
Yeah. Watching Japanese
But
next.
yes, I will. I will watch the dub, and I think I might even go for the manga if I could. I'd like to see how long it actually is. But all right, Justin, until next time, we have other things in the pipe. And if you like what you've listened to and seen here, check out our back catalog. We've got some tier lists in there we've been doing.
Yep.
I really every now and then I think about the Final Fantasy bosses one
Our
we did.
first one.
Oh my gosh, yes, just because it was hilarious and how the artwork. We were like, these are pretty kick-ass bosses, and we just kind of like we're like, forget those final bosses. We want these guys instead,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the second to last boss, your actual antagonist. Anyway, if you like, please go back and check out some of our back catalog. But as always, this has been Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin. Bitchin'.
Thanks for listening. Bitchin'.